Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Safe and Sound Texas Audio Excursion. I'm David Bianco with you here for a reflection back on a review that I did earlier in 2023 in February regarding the Fleetwood Mac self-titled album. You can see a couple versions of it up here. And at that time, I was looking at the Chris Bellman recut of the album. It's got the red sticker on there. I was comparing it to an original that I had, and a US original to be clear, and also the Mobile Fidelity Sound Labs release of this in '79, one of the very first releases they had. And so when I did that comparison, I found in the end that the Bellman cut was very good for the money, $24 to $29, depending where you bought it at. Compared to the MOFI, but I preferred the sonics of the MOFI overall. And so that's where I let things lie. And subsequent to that, I got a few comments and even an email from someone, and it related to me the issue of, gee, is it the KENDUN cut? In other words, there was a facility that was involved in mastering called KENDUN in California back in the day. And their pressing of that album was found to be the most superior. And I looked and found out that it was not. And so a copy of that was sent to me graciously by a guy that I've gotten to know named Brad. He actually was with me on a live shootout that we did of a couple of titles. I did Steely Dan's The Nightfly. He did Carole King Tapestry. We've become fast friends, and I appreciate the fact that he sent that. And from that, I found that, yeah, the KENDUN was definitely much better than my OG and was closer to the Chris Bellman cut. But again, I still preferred the Mobile Fidelity. So the Mobile Fidelity remained my go-to release, and I then got a comment in the video for the first shootout from a listener who said, hey, what about the Chris Bellman cut? 2012, Record Store Day, 2 LP, 45 RPM? And I'm like, huh? I never heard of that release. Well, it does exist. Somehow I missed it back in 2012 when it was coming out, and there it sits, and now it's a very expensive record to try to pick up, and this gentleman graciously offered to send it to me to do a shootout, and I appreciate it. It's a gatefold here, and it's got 2 LPs in it, as you might imagine, for a 45 RPM, and so let the shootout begin. I was very, very happy to get this. And again, it's a great part of being in the vinyl community, having these folks being so trusting to send these things. I'll be sending it back to him here after Memorial Day, making sure it's well protected, of course. And so I put this on after giving my MOFI a listen. Had to do a little bit of balancing in terms of the output. There was about a 2 dB difference between the Mobile Fidelity and this one, with the 45 RPM being 2 dB louder. So made those adjustments. So we have here a 45 RPM on 2 records. It's a Bernie Grundman master and a lacquer cut by Chris Bellman. And so Say You Love Me kind of starts things out, and I took a few special tracks here to compare this version of the album to the Mobile Fidelity. And the Say You Love Me was just so crisp. It's like you could feel the fingers of the picks on the bass line, and the vocal clarity had such precision, and then backed up by just enough punch. I say oodles, but not in the sense of too much, but really, really solid punch from the bass, from the kick drums, from the percussions, really strong. Then you go into Landslide, of course, and that's Stevie Nicks. It's like her mic and her voice is present right in the room. I mean, it's very, very close. Whereas in the Mobile Fidelity, it was pushed back a bit. And it's almost like there's a slight vibration in sections of the song in her voice that emanates, that you really get the timbre of and the feeling that I really didn't pick up before in any of the releases that I listened to. So just, these kind of accuracies that are there. Rhiannon, I mean, the keyboard clarity is so strong and evident throughout the entire track. The lower drum hits, they seem to be very precise. And I won't say that they were overpronounced. They were just very precise and on match with the percussion tone of the song overall. And in the MOFI, they were a little more muddled, a little more not as omnipresent as I would say they were in Rhiannon. Over My Head, crisp, Christy vocals. Christy McVie she sounds so angelic in this pressing. As a matter of fact, after playing a couple of songs on the MOFI at first, and then playing it on here, I got to a point where her voice actually made a tear come to my eye because it was just so close, and it reminded me, of the loss of her, the loss of that voice. And I think, she doesn't quite get the play that Stevie got because, her basically she's a little more laid back. But boy, her voice is so angelic, and I don't mean that just because she's passed. I mean it just because that's really how it strikes you on this pressing. It's just so much clearer and so much more impactful emotionally than it was in anything I'd heard before. Really great lead guitar picks by Lindsay that you could pick up. The background percussions were very well represented and evident, and the whole thing really has just a certain depth and space to it that I'd never really heard before. Warm Ways, the drum hits in that were very precise and really would hit your gut. It had this open and airy sound to it, which is part of the motif of that song in a way. Warm Ways kind of has that kind of whooshy, kind of open kind of feel to it. And it really was like, I got a visual in my mind of, a summer day, not too hot, with the windows open and the light curtains just kind of moving and wafting around during this song. It really kind of had that. And again, her voice, I mean, this one really got me. She just really was like just hovering in the room. And I don't know, it just very, very present is all I can say. I mean, this Record Store Day 2x45 release, the vocals just much more distinct. It has a much wider sound stage. It has better imaging and better dynamic range than the MOFI. And wow, it's unfortunate. I think they made 6,000 of them. And again, they're very pricey to buy on the secondary market. But this one really does really distinguish itself. And I've loved and enjoyed the MOFI release. I've had MFSL for decades, literally decades. And this is one where I have to say, if I could get my hands on it, I would get it. Again, the gut grab of Christy's voice is just so, Christine is just so close to your ear and just makes a penetrating kind of feeling that I just really haven't really felt in a reproduction song in a long, long time. And it was definitely something that was just came about, just kind of came to me, and it was a spontaneous kind of thing. And I just realized how much more articulate this particular pressing was. So to my friend who had sent this to me, a million thanks for being so generous in doing this. And I'm sure the people on the channel thank you as well to get this input. And again, it's just another great example of the camaraderie we can have here in the vinyl community. And I'm really impressed by that, and I really appreciate these friendships that I've made. And so these are the kind of things, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe to the channel and watch these journeys as we go through them. And if you like this video, a thumbs up is appreciated. Comments are always welcome. That's how I got the information on these other pressings and got them into my hands to do comparisons with. Brad's on the KENDUN, and then this gentleman here on the 2x45. So for now, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time on our next Safe and Sound Texas audio excursion. Take care, everybody.